The Evergreen Media Network Studio, powered by Scott Tree Services.
This is Martha Matters. From real estate, healthcare, current events, taxes, or just about any topic, we're talking about it. Call us with any questions on just about any subject. Now, here she is, Martha!
Well, hi there, and welcome. We recently had a decision by the Supreme Court that did not make a decision on what they call, bump stocks, which is an attachment to a semi-automatic rifle, making it automatic. And we had that problem, if you remember, a few years ago at Las Vegas.
Yes.
With this accountant who evidently had a black side to him, a dark side, I should say, to him. And he used the bump stock, and inside of like 60 seconds, he had over 60 people he hit and died. Aiming from one of the higher hotel windows right down to a bumper crop of lookers on that were standing right next to one another. So he couldn't avoid hitting everybody. He didn't even have to aim. It just went off automatically to the entire mob standing below him.
They were at a concert, from what I remember,
Yeah, they were there for a concert, but the concert, I don't think, started yet, and he all of a sudden let off all those bullets inside of a minute.
Yeah.
Well, now, or recently, I think within the last week or two, the Supreme Court came out with a decision concerning bump stocks, and they did not make a decision, and they were absolutely right in not making it. The Supreme Court, by law, has to be sure that the Constitution is followed. That is their job, that people don't change the Constitution, don't break the laws. And what happened is, yes, people can have a gun, but it says nothing about attachments, yes or no, nothing about alterations of guns, yes or no. And they referred that decision, rightfully so, to the Congress, namely the House of Representatives.
Right. Yeah.
Only the House of Representatives, as an administrative unit, can ban the production of bump stocks and can ban the sale of them and make it a #1 felony if any of them are sold underground. And that is the only way to stop it. The Supreme Court has nothing to do with attachments. It only has to do with enforcing the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And something else came out of this way back in the 1800s, because there were very few guns relatively. There were swords and machetes and other items that can kill people. Bearing arms did not include a bomb. So an individual cannot transport a huge bomb back then and blow up a 6 or 8 10 block area. That was not considered the right to bear arms. I found that very interesting. So how the Supreme Court ruled is absolutely correct. Now, we have a problem right now. The Supreme Court seems unified. By that, I mean we've had recent decisions by the 9 judges that were unanimous on a lot of policies. And it doesn't matter if they were originally Democrats or originally Republicans. They all have the policy of absolutely enforcing what the Constitution says to the best of their ability. Now, right now, the conservative people like that decision. But the far left, the AOC group, I'm not going to say Democrats because they're not all Democrats, but the far left wants the Supreme Court to decide what they want and their policies, and it has nothing to do with the Constitution. And that is a problem. Now, I can give you another example recently that they're waiting for a decision on that does involve the Supreme Court, and that was Trump's trial. They know all trials, the defendants have the right to have witnesses, the prosecution has the right to have witnesses, and there are all kinds of policies that have to be applied. Where his recent court hearing in Manhattan violated all those things. They violated his right to both have witnesses on his behalf, to prevent certain situations on his behalf with factual information, and they denied quite a bit of information, both from witnesses and from facts presented by Trump's attorneys. So that's why you hear going around, oh, this is a kangaroo court, because in Russia, in Cuba, in Venezuela, all those communist and socialist countries, that's the kind of court hearings they have. For example, that Evan, who every 3 months was supposed to be considered to be released, they have no intention of releasing him. He was supposed to be released last November, last January 1st, this past March, and now, and all of them are denied, and he's still in a Siberian jail.
Yeah.
Their court hearings are an absolute joke. And committing a crime by law, he hasn't, but that doesn't matter. By law, Trump didn't commit a crime either, but they went ahead and had a trial in Manhattan, just like a third world country. Which is why Trump's saying they're not against him, they're using him as an example.
Right.
But in the future, they can have kangaroo courts on every single Republican candidate and try to make this country a one-party system, which is not a democracy. I believe in the democracy and the success that this country has had for 250 years, not a program or policy on what 3 or 4 people want, and that is it, and everybody better obey and keep their mouths shut. Mm-hmm. That's what they're aiming for. And I think the majority of you out there, you may not have realized it 4 years ago or 6 or 8 years ago, but I credit the majority of you with realizing that now, which is why there is a big landslide against AOC and the far left socialist agenda. Because that's going to, sooner or later, if this is allowed to go through, it's going to affect all of us. Those of us, including you and me, who may vote for local government, like county commissioners or anything like that, or a police chief, or a number of things that we vote for, both in the primary and the general election, we're going to be prevented from campaigning, from opening our mouths, from having a platform. It's going to slowly eliminate the 2- and 3-party system that we have, which is the 2-party system, especially with Democrats and Republicans, has made this country great. It involved democracy, it involved compromise, it involved listening to both sides of the story, the famous phrase, it takes 2 sides and 2 people to have an argument and make a change. Not 1, 2. So we have 2 parties, which is the way it should be. When we eliminate that, socialism has 1 party only in charge, and they do what they want to do, and there is no checks and balance of any kind with the Supreme Court. They want the Supreme Court to be stocked with people who just vote yes to their policies, and that's the end of it. That's not a Supreme Court, and that's not a checks and balance. And it's not one-sided. The Republicans tried very hard to make abortion of any kind way back in the McCain and Sarah Palin era. They tried to make abortion totally banned. And before that, in the 1800s, we had the prohibition where alcohol was 100% banned. After having abortions for several decades, and after allowed to have alcohol for several decades, you're not going to go back to passing laws that don't allow either of those things. It is a total joke. They may have to be controlled, like you should be 21 or 18 before you do public drinking. With abortions, each state has the right to decide an abortion, whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 15 weeks, 23 weeks. Each state has different policies, and they also have different policies on rape and incest. And that is where the decisions should be, where the local people of whatever mix they are have the right to decide abortion policy. Nothing's being eliminated, but it is not up to 2 or 3 people in the head of the federal government to make decisions on this. It's up to the states. Except for Medicare and Obamacare and a couple of other health insurances, all of the other health insurances are decided by the state of what's included, what isn't included in coverage. It's not the federal government. And why? You may have one state that's 50% Indians, that may believe in sterilization, that may believe in abortion all the way up till the time of birth. In another state, you may have the majority of people who don't want it any more than 15 weeks of pregnancy, and by then you should be able to make up your mind. Well, all these people with different opinions don't have to be unified. They should move to the state or agree to the state that has their policy if they want an abortion or want something else. So that is the policy of our democracy. We're a union of states, not one dictatorship government like China, like Russia, like Cuba, like Venezuela. And the reason there's so much rebellion in Venezuela, they had a large middle class. They had a semi-democracy where the people's vote were registered and counted. Now they don't have that, and the people are still rebelling. They see the difference. And I am very proud that most of the people who voted differently 4 years ago or 8 years ago now realize the problem we are facing with what has happened and are changing their minds. And I praise the free thinking of the American people. We're talking about a country. We're not talking about saving or getting rid of a party. And that is so important. So, in addition to that, what Trump was trying to say about his conviction using an expired misdemeanor, and the state of New York turned it into a felony, so it wasn't a still in it wasn't an expired thing. Well, all of that, and the ability of not having to have witnesses, of not letting both sides talk evenly, and having the gag order on one party and let all those that are prosecuting witnesses, let them talk to the kingdom come on all the social media, was very fair, unfair, very biased, and the Supreme Court should rule on that because they know what is allowed and what is not allowed in a trial. Justice should be blind, not prejudicial. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back briefly. Stay with us. I want to introduce you to our main sponsor, Highland Plaza, located on US 1 on the east side of the Highland Drive traffic light. We even have our own left-hand turn lane. One of the places in there, the first one on the north side, is Easy Stop, and you will be surprised what competitive and beautiful prices they have. You should give it a shot. Also, Tony's Hairstyling Salon is ideal for the entire family at all ages. He and his wife have run a salon there for years with a huge following. Also, we want to tell you about La Taberna Restaurant. It has the freshest Mexican food in town and a well-experienced chef. You will be most surprised not only by the food, but the reasonable prices. Also, I want to tell you about the nail salon. It's Luxury Nails. Let me tell you, they do everything, both for walk-in clients and appointments. Appointments are really appreciated, but they treat all clients professionally. Now, I want to repeat to you, this is located on US 1, just east of Highland Drive at the traffic light. It's a beautiful yellow building with a maroon awning. We look forward to seeing you there. Come on over.
Everyone's talking about mental health, but if you needed help, would you know where to turn? If you need help, start here. The Mental Health Collaborative. It's a central resource provider that will make it easier to get the help you need. MHC will make appointments with professionals for you. Simply provide them with your insurance information and the services you need. Make the call to them so they can make the calls for you. The Mental Health Collaborative of Indian River County. Reach out at mhcollaborative.org.
It's hurricane season. Prune your trees now with Scott Tree Services. Strengthen your trees against high winds and remove broken limbs that could cause damage. Don't get nervous. Call Scott Tree Services.
At Sunshine Furniture, our 35,000 square foot showroom is filled with the largest selection of in-stock coastal furniture on the Treasure Coast. Dining and bedroom sets, occasional tables, sofas, sleeper sofas, love seats, and chairs in all the latest styles and colors from Tommy Bahama, Lexington, Hooker, Riverside, Universal, Four Seasons, Braxton Color, and Capri. We're the outdoor furniture experts and have hundreds of styles of any patio furniture you need, including a gallery of Berlin Gardens, Hollywood, and Kingsley Bait. We specialize in fire bits, outdoor rugs, umbrellas, and replacement cushions. Right now, we're having a super summer sale with lots of great markdowns and discounts on everything you need for your Florida home, including all pictures, lamps, and accessories are half price. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Don't forget to visit our outlet store directly across the street and visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Sunshine Furniture.
Hey, we have a few things to wrap up, but I wanted to present this today to realize that the Supreme Court is not falling down on the job. The Supreme Court is very strong that they should not have rulings on specific items, attachments to guns. That has nothing to do with the Constitution. And they rightfully are pushing this decision of whether to eliminate bump stocks or allow them or limited allow them. It has to be a decision totally made administratively by the House of Representatives, or as we call them, the Congress. And they're absolutely right. One of the things of the Supreme Court that they have to face every single day is we have all these branches of government, the Congress or House, the Senate, we have the executive branch, we have the Supreme Court, and then there's another one that is supposed to be objective, even though it's not part of the Supreme Court, and that's the Justice Department. So really, all these agencies have specifics, and they all have checks and balances. Like the Supreme Court can make a balance, and not like the decision made by the House and can change it, but if they change anything, it goes back to the House, who has the final decision on whether to accept the change or reject it. So there are checks and balances all over the place. The Justice Department is supposed to be nonpartisan. We have some issues with that at the moment, but it was designed to be nonpartisan. And the Supreme Court, the reason they voted unanimously, they're not voting on a Democratic issue or a Republican issue, but what the Constitution says, and to make sure that the Constitution is enforced. So keep that in mind. And I highly respect the decision by the Supreme Court not to make decisions on gun attachments. That is all administrative, and that should be made by Congress. So I hope you have a new respect for the Supreme Court and know exactly what they can do, what they can't do, and what they can override. They can't just be the friend of somebody's opinion. So on that note, have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you next time.